Good morning or afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today for ClearPathGPS and our customer combo of results being achieved with ClearPath. We are so delighted for our customers who are joining us today, as well as prospects alike, to hear a little bit of insight of the results you can achieve with GPS fleet tracking and specifically ClearPathGPS. For today's session, I'm really excited because we will be focusing on how our system works with other systems to really help our customers get better efficiencies within their everyday operations and a positive impact when you combine it with other operational systems. My name is Jill Bender. I run marketing here at ClearPath, and along with today, have a few folks online, but just a few quick logistics first. Today's session is being recorded. We will be sending out the link after the session. We hope to make this highly interactive amongst our participants. So go ahead and put in questions as you have them come up, and we'll do our best to address them at the end. And then for privacy reasons, the attendees, quite a few, thank you for taking your time today to join us. We won't be able to Zoom, so just our panelists today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am delighted to have invited both our customers, Chris Newton with Branch Out Tree Care. Good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Jill. Thank you for inviting me over.
Great. And it looks like Katrina is going to be joining us. I think she's running just a few minutes late, but we're not going to wait to get started because I know everyone's time is super valuable. We're looking for just a quick half hour here. So hopefully she will catch up with us. Lots of great stories to share on her end as well. And we will see hopefully that she's able to log in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. 1 second, please. Great, thank you. So for today's agenda, really the goal here is to make it a quick yet informative discussion and really provide not so much the ClearPath point of view, although we certainly like talking about ourselves and the results we're helping our customers achieve, but really hear it from our customers and what their insights are and how they're using our system. So again, interactions, we'll be really focusing on how leveraging other tools, chat a little bit about the results being achieved and insights with working with ClearPath, and we will address questions as they come up. So, of course, just have to provide a little bit of insight about ClearPath before we get started. We do help thousands of businesses, both large and small, across the U.S., all who are providing valuable services within their respective fields and industries, as well as within their communities. And while the businesses and operations may vary, the value that they're getting out of ClearPath GPS, that real-time fleet visibility of insights and tools, really does provide them a more efficient way to help them run their business every day. And of course, a lot of people ask us, well, what makes ClearPath different? And really, it is that laser focus on the success of our customers, combined with our flexible terms and our top-rated support. But enough about ClearPath. Let's go ahead and dive into our customers. And as mentioned, we are hoping that Katrina with Mr. Reuter is able to join us, but we will dive in with the Branch Out Tree Care and with Chris, who is on the call with us, and we will go back from there. So Chris, thank you so much. I just want to share a little bit about Branch Out Tree Care relative to ClearPath, but I know you're a family-owned business since 2007. A customer, thank you for that, for at least 6+ years. And it sounds like you're tracking about 14 fleet components with us, including solar. We'd love to hear about that. And then most importantly, it sounds like you didn't have any GPS system prior. So with that, that's enough about me talking. Chris, would you just share with us, and I'll take you through a few quick questions here. What are your primary services? Share with us, what does Branch Out Tree Care do? What differentiates you?
Well, yes, Jill. So essentially what we do is we provide tree care. And for us, that means we do tree trimming, tree removal, stump grinding within a certain market space, which we call the Santa Barbara area, which spans about 40 miles wide and 5 to 10 miles tall. It's just a little strip in the coastal section here in Central Coast, California. So we do have about 14 units, GPS units in service. Some of them are on trailer type equipment, and some of them are on traditional vehicles, dump trucks and pickups, etc. And what we pushed that sets us apart is our professionalism, our customer service, and along with that comes our underpinning that is our reputation. So those are the things that we focus on in order to keep the wheels moving, so to speak. And as years have gone by, company DNA develops and company culture. We've sort of discovered the obvious there along those lines, and we really take a lot of energy to focus on those details, to just refine that and constantly dial in on those things. And we do that because we know that's what maintains our presence in our market space. And so that's what our core is, and it works.
Great. And from a pure tracking standpoint too, not necessarily traditional. All our businesses, we should say, are traditional, but from a tracking, it's vehicles and assets, correct?
That is correct. Vehicles and assets. Like you mentioned, we've got 14 GPS units. 7 of those are asset trackers, and 7 of those are vehicle trackers.
Great. And then just the sort of last question on this part is, why did you choose ClearPath? You've been a customer for 6 years, so you might not remember, but if you recall any components.
Well, I honestly think that it's been a bit longer than 6 years. I was just trying to do the mental calculations, and but where I'm going with that is we got in around when the GPS systems first started coming out. It was intriguing and interesting because it was new, at the time. And we're in a small community, so we heard about ClearPath, and one of the reps came out, and we signed up for a couple units, and we've been with ClearPath ever since. So when the technology itself became available, not long after it was in the marketplace, is when we first started using the units. And so that's how we got in with ClearPath.
Great. And we do love, of course, that you're in our, per se, backyard. The other day I was driving and I saw one of your big trucks out. And I'm like, I wish I could have pulled over and just taken a picture. But yeah, that's great. Great. No, I appreciate that. It does look like Katrina was able to join us with Mr. Reuter Plumbing. We're just working on audio. But I do have a couple more questions back to you, Chris. So Katrina, just to test, are you able to hear me?
I'm here. I apologize. I'm on a job site, so it might be a little loud in the background.
No, I mean, that's the as business owners, I know you all are both strategic and running your business, but tactile goal on the everyday component. So thank you. If you mind, I'll just switch over to you. We'll give a little bit of background like Chris just did with Branch Out Tree Care, and then we'll sort of dive into the heart of today's discussion. Does that work?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so Katrina, with Mr. Reuter Plumbing, can you tell us about your primary services and what makes you different, and why you chose ClearPath?
Yeah, so we are a plumbing franchise. We're actually fortunate enough to be one of the local ones in Rochester, New York. Perks are I'm a woman, so I get to say I'm a woman-owned business, and I'm certified for that. Which helps differentiate me from some of my competitors, because as you probably know, the industry is filled with men. But one of the main reasons why I joined ClearPath was for the tracking of our vehicles. We do a lot of work for the state, and they require certified payroll, which helps when, with it being on ClearPath, we can run reports to help, make sure that we're giving them the correct hours, as well as having technicians not being at places that they shouldn't be.
Absolutely. And I have to say, I always love the story too when you shared how you did find out about us. You were at, I believe, a Mr. Reuter meeting, and a fellow franchisee shared with you on the mobile app, ClearPath. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I was actually at my onboarding meeting when I came into the franchise, and there was another Mr. Reuter in California that was raving about you guys. And I was like, okay, well, you have to show me because you've been talking about it. And ever since then, the first thing I did when I came back home was I called you guys up, and I was sent, I think at that time, four trackers, and I've just been adding them to my fleet ever since.
Yeah, and I should mention too, and it's sort of as my intro with Branch Out Tree Care, which is also a very successful business here like yours out in Rochester, New York. But I know that you've been with Customer Fast for about 3 years, though the business is not new for you. 20 years plus is family owned, and that you did add dash cams to your fleet arsenal with GPS tracking. Gosh, it's been a couple years now as well, so that's great.
Yeah, that's correct. I love the dash cams. It
another great component of that.
Yeah.
Great. Why don't we go ahead and dive into sort of the heart of our discussion here? And Chris, I'm going to ask you to sort of take the floor, if you will, but really in focusing this customer conversation on, obviously, when you're running your business, it's not just about GPS tracking. That's an added bonus and component to help your operations run smoothly. But if you could share with us a little bit about your operational tools, and primarily we're focused a little bit on Fleetio, because obviously we have a tight integration with that, but that's how you run your business as well. But if you could just sort of provide, what does your tech stack look like? Really briefly, what is Fleetio? How do you, what's that component? And how you are using it with ClearPath?
Sure. So essentially, Fleetio is a online, what's called fleet management software that does a whole host of things in terms of managing your vehicle's service history, your vehicle's daily vehicle inspection reports. So for that, you can use a pre-programmed daily vehicle inspection. There's several that they provide. You can also easily customize the inspections, and tailor it to your fleet, your vehicles. If the vehicle has specialty equipment or other types of equipment on board that needs to be inspected. So it's service history, vehicle inspections. It has a component for parts management, and it has a component for creating work orders for third parties and managing internal parts inventories. So it really does a lot of stuff, and it's a pretty big dive to get into, get implemented, and have all the drivers and related parties within your organization utilize. So it was a pretty good challenge, for us for just a small business, but it was well worth doing. And the point of that as it relates to ClearPath is that the fleet management system has the capability to accept inputs, the telematics from the ClearPath units. So for example, when the vehicle stops at a certain location for fuel, it has the capacity to get that information from ClearPath. When the vehicle is turned on or off, then the fleet management system, the Fleetio, has the ability to go ahead and take those meter readings, they're called, so that you're accurately tracking the miles, and all that stuff sort of feeds in as underlying data. So that, for example, with the Fleetio system, when you have a reminder set that you need to change the oil on a vehicle every 3,000 miles, say, it's automatically tracking that in the background, so you don't have to remember, it's this many miles, I need to change the oil. It'll just constantly set reminders, and again, all that stuff's customizable, so you can set reminders for a whole variety of different things. And once you set all that up, then you let it operate in the background. Again, it's very customizable in terms of the types of alerts that it sends and when. et cetera. So it accepts all the data that the ClearPath units are providing, as well as on the more modern trucks, and in conjunction with the modern ClearPath GPS units, it accepts what are called the DTC, the diagnostic trouble codes. So, for example, your vehicle puts up a check engine light. You can know that at your desktop, so to speak, or if you're on the road, you'll get an alert that an engine light came on in real time, basically on one of your vehicles while it's in the field. So you can get right ahead of those types of things and deal with those as they arise, and not wait for the driver to report that or not.
So it's really that. We often, I would pretend to coin it, but it's not. It's our co-founder, CROC, but he often says that it's like bringing your business to life in real time. So a lot of the things you were just talking about really, tries to that. I know some of the other things you're talking about too is, the concept of the geozones and be able to set up virtual fences around job sites and being, as we were just talking about, alerted, for those different, when equipment's coming in or out, or vehicles, so they could really track and monitor your job site and proof of service and so forth. Is that right?
That is correct too. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. And that certainly, I know we were talking about it. You were even delving into ways you were using our system. I'm like, oh, that's another use case, and that often is the case with our customers, given that their businesses are all very unique in that way.
Sure. Yeah, and that's what's neat with the Fleetio system and with ClearPath is with ClearPath. In this context, the data that it provides is just it's spot on. The systems are very reliable. We really don't. I can say we don't have problems with with any of the ClearPath units. It works.
Well, we always love that. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to switch over to you, Katrina, if you don't mind, and we'll just ask you to also share a little bit, like what Chris with the branch out just did, as far as your tech stack. Your focus and the way you run your business a lot is on ServiceTitan, so what that means, and then really what the value of adding ClearPath to that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did find, though, with ServiceTitan and ClearPath as the franchise, it was a little bit of a process to get it connected. We're still actually in the process of getting it connected. But like he was saying, we use all of those reports. I know that he probably has his connected to his Fleetio. ServiceTitan, once it's integrated, will do the same thing for us. But it does help track our technicians on the job a little bit more clearer. We don't have as many functions as the Fleetio with ServiceTitan does currently, just being a franchise, and they have certain rules and regulations that they can approve us for.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But using ClearPath and all the reports that you guys have is actually, it's made my day a lot smoother when it comes to vehicle reports. In New York State, we have to report our highway use tax. So being able to pull reports from your system to report that just makes my job a lot easier.
Well, and I know you were also chatting a little bit about, the tracking of the field techs, right, out in the field, and not having to rely on them to punch in data within their own mobile apps and be able to verify payroll and jobs and things like that. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I took over, the old owners were using cell phone tracking for time cards. They were paying ridiculous amounts of money. Didn't know where the guys were. The phones weren't nearly as accurate as ClearPath. So being more cost effective, I switched to ClearPath. I was able to get, it's really cool actually. I love the fact that you can pull up the map and see exactly where they are. It's like pinpointed. It's the coolest thing ever. But that helped increase productivity when it came to knowing start and end times of jobs. And then especially with having to do certified payroll for the state, being able to have exact times when the guys were on site versus the old version that they were using with the phones. It was a guesstimated time, which I found extremely inefficient.
Well, it's interesting too, when we talk to customers, and our whole team, I should say, from support to success team to our founders, the sales team, we talk to so many customers and so many use cases, but over and over we do hear this part, this is that payroll verification, but truly the accountability and visibility, and that common theme. I know, Chris, you were sort of mentioned that as well when we were chatting earlier. Great. So with that, let me go ahead and move on to our sort of next topic, if you will. And it's a little bit tied into, again, sort of the results, but there's always that what we call aha moment, right? Of like, oh, wow, didn't realize that this system would impact us in this way. And I know when we're all talking individually about the different pieces, you both sort of shared different stories, some more proprietary, some, that are more, out there with a lot of our other customers too. But I will ask you from that question, and Katrina, if you want to share, what did you look at from that true unexpected bonus of tying in with ClearPath?
Oh yeah. So, well, the first piece is the savings that I had by switching to ClearPath. The old owners were paying about almost $1,000 in phone bills, and just extremely inefficient time cards. By switching over to ClearPath with all my units being tracked and having the dash cams on it, I think I pay under $400 a month right now. I don't know exactly what it is. I'd have to look at it, but yeah, the savings right there. It was just like, holy smokes. Why didn't I know about this sooner? My ROI on switching to ClearPath was it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer.
Well, I have the biggest smile on my face for that, and thank you. What about you, Chris? Share with us. What was sort of an aha moment? I know we chatted about a few different things.
For me, really, it's come into being able to stay ahead of our vehicle maintenance, and just knowing through some examples I won't, get into with you, but just knowing that we're taking care of our maintenance as it's due for our entire fleet, and therefore we're heading off downtime, breakdowns, safety issues, et cetera. It's been kind of one of the major aspects for me that really gives me, kind of a smile on my face when we're ahead of things all the way around throughout our fleet, and our equipment gets a lot of use. And I don't want to say abuse, but it's in, we do brush chipping and chipping of material. So it's the details of keeping the equipment clean and maintained it's really critical. Pieces, things sharpened, et cetera. So being able to just take all that data and use that is just very powerful. And then as well as a side note, was kind of a cool thing I think you were alluding to, Jill, is the GeoZone feature is another thing that's very cool for us. And for what that is, I'm sure everybody knows, but it's where, if your vehicle breaks into a defined area, it can alert you in a couple different methods. But we have a place, a byproduct of our business, we have wood chips that build up in the back of the truck. So we need to dump those. We dump those at a few different places. And one of the places we dump, I have it set up with the GeoZone so that when our dump trucks, not the pickups, just the dump trucks, you can customize all that stuff. When the dump truck goes into this particular farm property, call it, that it texts the property manager. So the property manager knows that we're in his property, and then it texts him again when we leave. So it's just kind of a cool way to sort of have a nice deep relationship, to deepen the relationship with the property owner and maintain his confidence, in what we're doing, and we're on his property and now we're not, et cetera, without having to call him, me call him, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, or a driver call him. It's automatic. So that's been another pretty cool thing as well.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. I think, and I can't, and again, we talked to so many customers, but I remember just one other story I'll throw out there was something to where a call came in of a neighbor indicating that business's truck had knocked out a pole. Oh, that was you, Chris.
That was,
pole, right?
Uh-huh. So that was interesting, and that kind of stuff, as you know, in small business, and you're out, and especially in the service industries, it just all kinds of weird stuff happens, and there's all kinds of people out there. So this one was, our vehicles are taller, but they're, obviously road legal, et cetera. And a guy called into the office, and he said that one of our trucks had come by and knocked a telephone and cable line off out of the sky, or basically knocked it from the height of the vehicle driving down the road, knocked his cable off. And normally, you take those calls, and you kind of, you feel responsible to deal with it, because there's an accusation made, and there's theoretically a wire down laying on the ground, et cetera, et cetera. But as we've learned over the years, we take the information, we're going to investigate the situation, and we take a real close look at things before we make any other moves, and make sure, number one, that's our responsibility, and that in fact is what happened. So anyhow, long story short, in this circumstance, we asked the relevant questions, when, where exactly did this take place, et cetera. And easily within a few clicks went through a GPS report, and we're able to, with confidence, say, look, we have GPS on our vehicles. Our vehicles were nowhere near that address on that particular day. So, therefore you're mistaken. And sure enough, that put the kibosh on that. So it's good to have that, just because you never know, again, when you get kind of weird stuff hurled at you just from your presence in the community. And it looks like Mr. Rooter is a big name. I'm sure that Katrina gets her share of weird stuff. And we do as well, because, we're in a small community, but we have a big name and we have a big presence. And it just happens, the world is just out there spinning around, and things get hurled your way. So that's a cool feature too, just for those accountability purposes, to be able to say, like, with confidence, no, we were not there. Sorry.
No, that's why we hear in situations like this, as far as, some accountability. And the good news is, the bad news is, if it is your driver, something did happen, then that's a coaching moment. That's, other components, when it comes to managing drivers and field techs out in the field.
Right. And right on the flip side, exactly, Jill, like, okay, well, if that was us, then we can easily know what the driver was. Well, how come it wasn't reported, blah, 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 and go in that direction as well.
And we also hear a lot of customers too, based on some of our harsh braking, speeding reports, things like that. They actually coach, but also have incentives for their field techs, to better protect their brand out there. So with that, I'm going to just speed this along a little bit more. It's got a little bit of a late start. If folks could hang out with us for about 3 or 4 minutes, I think it'll be worth your time. And again, there's so many more stories, and delving in, deeper. If anyone who's joined us online has questions further for our customers, we could take them offline. But if you could just share, why don't we start with you, Katrina, as far as working with ClearPath, it's from onboarding and ramping up, and just overall guidance to your success.
Yeah, I believe John was who I worked with when I first came on board. He was wonderful. It was honestly very quick, very easy. The units we got coming from California to New York, we got them within a few days. A couple of our units, we needed certain adapters, got those. It was a very easy, smooth process to get everything started. Once you plug them in, you text a number, they get good to go. Cool tutorials on how to set everything up. And like Chris is saying, the geo fields are, the whole system is just blow your mind once you really get into it.
That's great. We really pride ourselves on sort of the ease of use, whether it's on platform or on the go with our mobile app. And I know that makes a big difference, whether it's you all using it and or if you have dispatchers, other people, team members, everyone sort of uses it for different roles within the operations, I know. What about you, Chris? Just a moment to just share how it was in ramping up and onboarding?
Yeah, one thing for us as we started several years ago, what's been kind of neat is that the technology has changed so fast from the first ones. They had to come out, and hardwire little wires and install the units to the newer versions, which just are essentially just, plug and play with the right adapter. So what's been cool with that is that the ClearPath has been there for that entire process. And when our units are timing out, they are resupplying us, essentially keeping the equipment updated as part of our business relationship. They send us the units. They know when they're timing out. They send them, run us through the installation, and the swap outs, even swapping from an older unit to the newer one is easy. Like Katrina was saying, just call in and then it works. And I did want to mention too, Jill, that on Fleetio, we do use the app, the ClearPath app, especially on the mobile. We use that all the time. And so we kind of have our ClearPath into two pieces. One, the data that gets reported to the fleet management system, which is a standalone deal. And then the ClearPath app itself, which we use very frequently throughout the day. It's really nice. And again, that's constantly updated. And there's a newer, I don't know if it's a beta version or where that's going, but there's a new version too. That's pretty cool. So I like that it's always being updated, and that ClearPath is taking their customers along on that with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. We're always innovating, if you will, looking for better ways to improve both, software and hardware. We're quite proud of, on the hardware side, it's one thing to have a reliable service, and but also the hardware hand in hand. And our team is really well vested in understanding how quickly to get it working and so forth. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So with that, I do have a couple of questions that have come in. Katrina and Chris, can you hang out with us just for like 1 or 2 more minutes?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's great. I thank you so much. And again, for those that do have to leave us, the goal of today's session really was just to give you a quick glimpse of how our customers on this particular conversation is really using our system within their other systems. And a lot of times we hear, even with our many integrations we have, that it's just a side-by-side component, but having that live fleet visibility always up. We've seen some really big screens in some of our customers' offices with that live fleet visibility. That's always fun, just to really help them get better results each day. So for those that do have to leave us, I highly encourage you to take a look at different case studies and insights we have on our website. Should mention we do have a live demo next Wednesday. We'll send you information about that along with the recording, and we're available to take us to the next step. And we'll go ahead and get to the quick questions now. One, it looks like to you, Katrina, any advice for a neighborly franchise that's, I know where you fall under, that's considering ClearPath versus other providers?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Mr. Rooter franchise brand goes, I'm actually leaving, trying to get it integrated, just because it'll improve the efficiency of our ServiceTitan system.
But if you were to sort of guide, from a fellow franchisee, would you say ClearPath is a good choice for that? Just in general.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because I know that there are a lot of different providers out there. So when you think about what defines or differentiates, along with the customer service, the top ratings that we get, I think just the ease of use is something. But I didn't know if you had any more advice, that person who's joined us is doing their diligence, which they should, in choosing the right provider.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, you have options out there. But as far as ClearPath goes, I've never had any issues, and it's been 3 years. A unit's down, I can easily get to your help center, send me a new unit, I'm up and running the next day. So there's never really been any major downtime. Really, I should knock on wood, have yet to have any major issues. Reports are always spot on, and you can't
Right.
lie when a GPS is where a GPS says. So
The data speaks for itself in that way, right?
it does. It does.
A few other questions. I think we'll just take time for just one more question, and then we'll wrap this up, and we'll take a couple things offline that were specific to ClearPath. But I think the other question that came, and Chris, I'll ask you to speak to it briefly. Katrina, if you want to add in something, just in regards when you did ramp up or as you get new field techs, any sort of opposition or pushback when it comes to, oh wow, you're tracking me out there. What's the experience been like with your field techs?
When we first switched over, the guys were a little reluctant. But I ensured them, that it was for their protection, because at the end of the day, it is. A lot of accusations can be made. Mr. Rooter and Roto-Rooter get confused all the time. And at first, when I took over, we were getting a lot of phone calls for competitors. So having that component to be able to really say, hey, listen, let me do our due diligence. Let's see where the guys were. We'll let you know. Pull up our GPS, and we're not even in that area. So it kind of has a peace of mind to that. I actually had a very interesting situation happen where a technician got a parking ticket, and he said, no, I was on the side of the road the entire time. Long story short, he was actually on the wrong side of the road, so that ticket was valid. That's how accurate the location is. So, but it's
definite coaching moment, right?
yes, it was very much so. As far as our new technicians come on board, it's for their protection at the end of the day. So,
absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Chris, how about you? Was there any sort of input you'd like to provide on that?
Honestly, not really, but just the takeaway is we've had them in our vehicles for the extended period of time, several years, and no, it's to be expected that if you're not driving any type of company vehicle, that there's the GPS trackers are in place. And I just know we don't use the dash cams, so I can't address that aspect. But in terms of actual where the guy is in the truck, no, there's the guys like it, if anything else.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's great. And, and Katrina, I might ask you to take offline, and I'll post it out there as far as, your usage with dash cam, just in the interest of time. So with that, my goodness, we did go over, and, again, both to Katrina and Chris, I know how extremely busy you all are, both in a little bit of the prep up here and today's session. So I just can't thank you so much for really sharing your insights with our audience today about how you're using the system and, the insights. So thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
You're welcome, Jill.
That's great. And as we wrap up today, again, we will send you all a recording that's been online with us today. Lots of great information on our site. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about how we help with operational visibility, insights, and tools to help get better results. And what better way than to hear it from our great customers. So thank you, everyone. And again, thank you, Mr. Rooter and Bradshaw Tree Care. You guys are the best.
Thank you, Jill. Have a great day.
Have a good day. Bye-bye. Bye.